Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Disc Golf Preview Show for the Music City Open. We're in a slightly different scenario than we typically would be. We're not in our preview show set. We're actually at College Disc Golf National Championship. If you haven't been following along with our coverage of that, we've been doing recap shows and recap posts over on Instagram as well. It is currently on a weather delay.
It's coming down.
Yeah.
It's coming down.
You might hear some very loud thunder. We just had one shake the house about 5-10 seconds ago. So it is doom and gloom out there, and there's a chance it's going to be like that the rest of the weekend out here. We'll talk about what it's going to be like in Nashville, though, for Music City Open. Now, before we get into the episode too far, this show is typically presented by Disc Dynasty, a free fantasy disc golf app that was in beta testing. And to be honest with you guys, you kind of blew everyone's expectations away slightly. A lot more of you were using the app, downloaded the app, and unfortunately, we don't know exactly what caused it, but we got kicked out of the league. I know a lot of you got kicked out of the league. We've been talking with them, and at this point, the app is just kind of tabled till farther notice, unfortunately. We were absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
It was a great app. It still has potential to be a great app. Thankfully, it was free to play, free to use, so they don't have anything to figure out refund wise, but it is unfortunate because it was a lot of fun. We're stoked to be working with them whenever that gets back up and running, when it's in like the full production. But we do want to just kind of let everyone know, because we were getting emails. I've heard they have hundreds and hundreds of emails to go through customer support wise. So you've been heard. We're sorry. We didn't really have any control over it other than we obviously drove the traffic. We were as upset as you were that we couldn't be playing. They're obviously very upset and frustrated, and they're working to get it fixed and sorted out so that hopefully we can resume fantasy disc golf on there in the near future. But for now, we'll have to move on without them, unfortunately. Still a great app and something that we will endorse fully once it's fully on the market. But for now, the beta version's somewhat broken, unfortunately, and they're working with their developers to hopefully get it fixed, hopefully get it back on there, and we'll do some intense testing of the full version. But the beta version, we were okay kind of putting it out there as beta, so is what it is. But unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to work through that side during this preview show, which it was one of the better parts of the preview show, if I'm being completely honest. But what we can preview is the Music City Open Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Series event. Previously, it's kind of been a national tour. At one point, it was even the national tour finale. Mm-hmm. Got moved down to a silver event last year. Back as a pro tour, presented by Lone Star Discs this year. I'm excited to have this back on the full pro tour stop. Yeah,
it's a good event. I think that Tennessee is a good disc golf area, so it's good to hit that area with the tour. Music City Open's an electric name, so you always have that to consider. And yeah, I don't know really why they chose to move it down to a silver series, but I'm glad to see it back where it is. Also, Lone Star Disc is really throwing their name around. Holy cow. I feel like every other event has been brought to you by Lone Star Disc so far this year.
Yeah, they're really pushing themselves out there. Now, last year, this event was taken down by Chris Dickerson, 3 strokes over Adam Hammonds and Lori Lettinen. And then Missy Gannon took it down on the FPO side, getting the better of Kat Murch by 4, and then Macy Valadiaz behind them. But with it being a silver event, wasn't a full field on either front.
It was an event that I specifically remember, and in particular the FPO field, but both fields were pretty weak. I don't know what it was in particular last year. I think it was a quick turnaround from Texas State.
It was only like 3 days, I think, before the event started.
Yeah,
to get from Texas to Nashville.
So I remember like a lot of people foregoing that event and deciding to skip it. Being a silver event, obviously, it was a lot easier to do that. So it wasn't one of the silver events last year that was like actually a really strong field. That being said, Chris Dickerson winning was still not a surprise there. Missy Gannon is certainly capable of winning as well, but the fields were certainly weaker than they will be now that it's an elite series. We're going to see the same courses played with a much stronger field.
Yeah, and I think that Dickerson and Missy's games both still line up very well for this course.
Yeah.
It's a very tight technical course, whether that be with trees on some holes, OB on others. It really requires a lot of control out there.
Yeah.
It's a good mix-up from what we've seen early in the season.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of golf courses, a lot of bomb it out there shots. We've seen players be challenged with OB. We've seen some technical shots with Waco, but Music City Open is just a different type of golf than we've seen kind of early in the season so far.
Yeah, you can just look at the course map and immediately you're going to see a lot of trees and a lot of OB. This is going to require technical shots. I wouldn't describe it as a distance course by any extent. There are a few holes with some teeth, but more so the theme is going to be accurate shots that are placed in good spots, and OB rate is certainly going to be an important stat for this event in general. But it'll be nice. It's going to be a nice kind of mix up. We had Waco where there's a little bit of a mix of technical golf. Austin, distance was definitely a factor at Austin, but even with the par threes, there's a lot of long par threes. You're going to see some shorter par threes at this course, a lot in that 300 to 380 range, even some that are shorter, but a lot of OBs, back-to-back island holes on 16 and 17, which I can't wait for. It's going to be solid. It's going to be really interesting to watch, and I think it's going to be a different brand of disc golf than we've seen a lot this year. So I'll be curious to see what players rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 16, 17. There's also a few tough holes early that can also kind of set the tone, throw you around really off the rails before it even starts.
Yeah.
This course doesn't really let up too much. And now there's courses out there with more teeth in this course, so we don't need to make it out to be the hardest course they're going to face all year. But it is a good mix-up from what we've seen, and it is a difficult course in its own way.
Well, and anytime you see more trees getting involved in the course, what that means is on that open shot to where you might have missed your line by 5-6 feet, but the disc has time to hyzer back and get you to a 35-foot putt, now you might be hitting an early tree.
Yeah.
So, that changes the game a lot to where the margin for error off the tee is much, much smaller, which is why tee to green, C2 and reg, those would be very important stats.
Yeah, now one of the big storylines coming into this weekend is, as of right now, day before the event, Ricky Wysocki has a tee time.
He does.
As of right now, he is planning to make his return. What are we expecting to see out of Rick this weekend?
I don't think we can, if you're a fan of Ricky, I don't think you can really want anything more than just, a full tournament of healthy golf. That's all you really want to see is him finish up and be like, yeah, everything felt good. I think I'm good to go. That's all you really want to see at this point. Forget what he does on the course. I don't think there's really any expectations there. I think if he's fully healthy, there's no reason why he won't play really well and contend even. But, yeah, at this point, we're just want Rick to be back to where he was.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a course that Rick can perform at. 2 years ago, we saw him and Mason Ford battling it out. Mason Ford ended up getting the better of him there. But yeah, I agree. I think that a success for Rick this weekend is finishing the tournament and being able to be like, hey, I felt good out there.
Yeah.
Or at least that felt a lot better than I felt all year. I'm good enough to keep playing.
Right.
That's a win.
Right.
Obviously, like you said, a win for Ricky could literally be a win this weekend.
Yeah.
But it's tough to know what to expect out of him. And going into it, I think that a successful weekend is a healthy weekend.
Yeah.
For Rick.
I agree.
With that being said, he could DNF again. We're getting mighty close to Champions Cup. We're getting mighty close to the first major of the year.
Yeah.
He needs to get a tournament under his belt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A player of Rick's caliber doesn't really have rust to shake off, you wouldn't think. He doesn't have that many. He has nerves, but he's very used to the tournament nerves.
Right.
I don't think he needs to from that front. It's just more so you don't want to step up being in a 5-year major drought to the first tee of a major, and this is the first action you're really seeing all year.
Yeah.
You don't want that to be the case you're in.
I would say so. And I think he has a really strong game for W.R. Jackson in that course, and I think that's a major he could win. So, yeah, it wouldn't be great if that was the first time he played a complete event all year long.
Yeah, now here's an interesting stat that was pulled by Nico, our typical host for this show. He actually, I didn't even notice he pulled this stat. Calvin Heimberg had a 6-stroke win at Texas State's over players that are also coming to Music City Open. I don't really know what to do with that stat, but I think it's interesting. But anyways, will Calvin be able to carry this momentum that he's had early season into Music City is more so the storyline here. Calvin, we actually just ran into someone when we were doing college disc golf, and they asked us, they're like, hey, who's the number one player in the world right now in your opinion? We were both instantly like, Calvin Heimberg. And he's like, thank you. I don't really think there's another answer right now.
No, I mean, if you're going to throw talent into the mix and go on the kind of subjective side, then whatever, you could argue a lot of players probably. But, based on that, along with just performance so far this year, I mean, Calvin he's a guy right now that you just cannot pick outside of your top 3. He's going to contend because his game doesn't seem to have any holes in it. Right now, everything's clicking. The putter's clicking. He's making circle 2 putts, throwing accurate drives. The forehand's working. there's not really an issue with his game at the moment, and when that's happening for him, mental side of the game is almost never a struggle for Calvin.
Yeah.
So he's unstoppable.
I mean, really a similar story for Gannon Burr to a certain extent.
Gannon Burr is gonna be a little bit scary now that he's got a win under his belt early in the year. It's gonna be scary.
Yeah. Now, an interesting player that doesn't have a win under the belt, doesn't really have much momentum, but this tournament it has their name written all over it, is Chris Dickerson.
Yeah.
Really, historically, he's pretty dominant out here, but most recently won it last year. Tennessee local. It's Tennessee's event. In the end, the course just seems like Tennessee golf. It seems like the type of golf that Chris Dickerson is just realistically the best in the world at. Do you expect him to be able to kind of keep that performance up? Like, do you expect him to push for the lead here, or do you think that the rocky start to the season is going to roll into the Rocky Mountains, if you will?
I really am rooting for him. I think that if it's going to happen, like this would make sense that this is the time. Now he does also have Champions Cup coming up as well. But like this could be the start of a stretch for him, like that he could find some success, a little more technical golf. But his game's just been struggling because Dickerson, typically, even when he's not contending, you can't find him too far down the leaderboard because he's just a technical, smart player, solid putter, very accurate thrower, can get the disc out there a bit. So, his game has clearly just not really been clicking so far this year. I would expect that if he's going to find it, this would be a great spot, being in Tennessee, an event that he has a lot of success at. And some players that might add even a little more pressure, like, oh boy, like the narrative's kind of building upon me. I mean, I'm seeing it all over social media right now. Like Dickerson just dominates the Music City Open. But I think that this is, it's a make or break. I don't know, must win or can't lose. What do you think? I think it's a must win.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to say must win because it's so difficult to win. I'm going to say it's a must place top 5. Okay. Is what I'll put it at.
It's cowardly.
I think it's a must get back on the right track for Dickerson because we're also about to go into Champions Cup, which he is the defending champ of there as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is his stretch right here.
This is his stretch of the season. Yeah. I think that this is a must-win stretch for him.
And you can
I think if he loses Music City, he needs to get Champions Cup.
Yeah, I say you can go ahead and you could get a win at Music City and a win at Champions Cup, and you're good for the season.
Yeah, you
got an elite series and a major.
Your rocky start doesn't look so rocky anymore.
Yeah, so
but
definitely trying to get it back on track.
This is definitely Dickerson's stretch to make some noise.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Here and then it'll kind of go back out west for a little bit. Let him be quiet when it comes back to the East Coast. Make some noise down the stretch again, and we'll end up with a solid Dickerson season at the end of the year. But if he goes rough here, rough Champions Cup, there's no telling what we could see. Yeah. The other player that has been a lot of stuff's been being posted about them on social media coming into this week is Mason Ford. Mm-hmm. Last time he played this event, he won it, 2021, when it was an NT. Obviously, he's back in the field this year. Different sponsor. Previously, he was sponsored by Innova. Now he's with Mint Discs. This course still suits his game. What are you expecting out of him this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Mason Ford is a really solid player, well-rounded game. But I don't know if I see in Mason Ford a guy that like I can expect to contend. I'm not gonna chalk down his win at Music City a few years ago to like, oh, this course just fits his business so well. I think he just had his weekend.
Yeah, he was throwing stuff in. It was.
I think that Mason Ford is a good player, but I think he's a player right now where his game is. If he's gonna win at any point with the way the tour is and how hard it is, he just has to have his weekend. So I'm not taking a ton of stock in it. Sure. He's got good history at this course. He clearly knows how to win on this course, so I expect a good finish. A top 20 is certainly likely, but I'm not expecting anything crazy.
I'm in the same boat. Yeah. I think like a top 20 is not going to surprise me. Top 5, I think, would surprise me. Yeah, to be completely frank.
There's just so many. There's too many good players.
There's too many good players, and I would say this course suits his game. But I would say that about players that are far better than him on a consistent basis. No offense to
like he throws accurate and can putt. Like
no offense to Mason's game, but like Mason, Paul Macbeth has a very similar like courses that suit Mason Ford. You would also be like, oh, that suits Paul.
Right.
And if they're going head to head, I'm taking Paul.
Yeah.
Now, on the FPO side, Paige Pierce, open in Austin. I thought, hey, this course isn't really going to suit her game. On paper, I thought it would, but historically, when there's a lot of OB, it doesn't really go Paige's way. She wins it. This course, I'm looking at it, doesn't seem like a course that's going to suit Paige's game. Is this a similar scenario where, hey, that's not going to matter, she can walk away with the win, or will we see her struggle out here a little bit?
I'm anticipating a bit of a struggle. I think that the lines are a little tighter. I think open to Austin, there was still a decent amount of airspace to work with. I think distance was a little more in play than it will be here. Paige Pierce, trying to predict Paige Pierce at this point is pretty much impossible. And that's becoming a lot of the FPO field because, Kristen is kind of starting to do that to us last week a little bit. Or
1 week.
Last event.
1 week.
It's, just dangerous precedent to start with, though. It's dangerous. I don't foresee Paige Pierce having a ton of success here. But coming off the momentum of a win always helps. So you never know.
Well, here's what I've seen out of Paige previous years. When she's not winning, it's about having fun. It's about the love of the game.
Yeah.
When she's winning, she has a whole different mindset of I'm a killer. I'm out here to win.
Right.
I'm not saying that one's better over the other, but typically when we've seen her get in that winning mindset, she likes to stay there. If she's coming off a win, I think that realistically, Paige Pierce, she's the greatest FPO player of all time. You can argue talent-wise, Kristen might be the greatest of all time, but doesn't have near the accolades to hold a candle to Paige's. So you can't really say a course doesn't or does suit her. You can, but she can show up and win this thing, and it's not going to be a surprise to anyone.
Sure.
So I don't expect it, but I'm not going to be anywhere close to surprised. And coming off the win, I think I'm leaning more towards she's going to have a good weekend out here than a bad weekend. But looking at the course, similarly, like I said, open at Austin, it won't be surprising if she's outside the top 10. But who knows, man? With Paige Pierce, I can look at the leaderboard, and as long as she's in the top 20, I'm never
yeah.
Like she's in 21st place. I'm like, that's kind of a little surprise. But she gets to 19th, 18th. I'm like, oh, she's having a little off weekend. And then she might come back and win from there.
I feel like with Paige in recent years, I don't really see her building momentum very often. I feel it's win, not great finish, well, whatever, another win a few weeks later. I don't know. I don't really see those dominant stretches anymore, which is just tough to do for anybody.
That is true. Now, Missy Gannon took this event down last year. This, of course, does suit her game well. She's been having a solid season so far.
Been okay.
What are the chances of her repeating out here?
I think they're good. I think, Missy Gannon has looked pretty solid this year, has put herself in the mix a little bit. I think that, obviously having the win will help. The field was really, really weak compared to what it will be last year, but coming off of the win last year, there's a reason to believe that she can do it again. She finished 6 under par for the tournament last year. She won by I think 4, so it was a convincing victory. I would expect her. I'm expecting a good performance. I'm not going to say that she'll win for sure, but I would say that I would be very surprised if she was outside of the top 5.
Now, I'm not too familiar if the course for FPO wise has changed a ton since last year, but assuming it hasn't changed drastically, it wouldn't surprise me if 6 under was still a decent winning line, maybe push to 7 or 8 under. So I think Missy Gannon definitely could win, but what I'll say is a 6 under isn't going to win by 4 this year. A 6 under is going to win by 1 maybe.
You wouldn't think so.
And all the strengths that make me think this is going to be a good weekend for Missy Gannon line up with Kristen Tatar.
Right.
And so that's the struggle there is, Kristen had an off weekend, came in 5th place at Open at Austin or whatever it was, a quote-unquote off weekend for audio listeners. There's no reason to freak out with Kristen Tatar yet.
No.
I think she's still the player to beat going into this weekend.
Certainly.
This course seems like a Kristen Tatar course, in my opinion. Yeah. So where Missy Gannon, she could pop off. This course also could be a good Owen Scoggins course.
That's what I was thinking. Owen Scoggins is somebody to watch out for.
But realistically, at the end of the day, if you're looking at the big 3, you're looking at the 3-headed dragon of Katrina, Paige, Kristen. This course suits Kristen the best. I think Katrina Allen second best and Paige Pierce third out of those 3.
Agree.
And it won't surprise me if you have Kristen and Kat sneak in the top 3 and you throw a Missy or Owen in there.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm my head's going. Now, another player that I think this course would suit very well, and as of a few days ago, we were thinking this is going to suit her very well, but as of today, Gonzo, Valerie Mandujano.
I know.
What is going on?
Yeah, this ankle injury has been crazy because, at what event the sun is finally
the sun's peeking out. We might be getting back out on the course here, folks.
At what point was she first trying to come back? Waco? I think it was Waco.
I think Waco was the first. Yeah.
She might have been like trying to be back for Vegas.
Well, no, she injured it before the All-Star event, dropped out of All-Star event, and I think originally was like, Vegas is questionable.
Yeah.
I should be back by Waco.
She was, but it sounded like originally was like, okay, I'm excited for Waco.
It seemed like a normal sprain, like a few weeks.
And then she was like,
it's April 6th.
And then she was kind of like, okay, Waco just wasn't going to happen. I'm heartbroken. And then like maybe she had already at that point decided like, okay, I'm just going to set a future date and I'm not going to play for a few weeks because we missed her at Austin. And now, I mean, yeah, it's been quite some time now. And like, I mean, hey, I'm all for like fully healing. I'm just like very surprised that she's not fully healed and ready to play on it at this point. And maybe, like I said, maybe she like figured, well, I'm going to miss Austin. I might as well just wait till Champions Cup. But like having to get to that event with rust is like not ideal. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I would love to.
Surprised not to see her back.
I would love to know a little bit more information about what's going on with this ankle injury.
Yeah.
Because any or if this even is, it's got to be the ankle injury still. Because Mason's playing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's got to be the ankle injury.
Yeah.
Now, because if Mason and Val are both missing, you could be like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're just traveling or something.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, because the FPO field's wounded without her there.
It is. It's a missing piece.
Especially at a course like this. Waco hurt. This course also hurts. Champions Cup, maybe that's what she's eyeing, is just come back for the major, don't risk it early, but...
Yeah.
I mean, it almost has to be like a fracture or something. I mean, you can have some really bad.
I know it was a really
sprains,
bad sprain.
This is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 months now, basically.
It's been a while.
But yeah, so that's kind of the course preview, some storylines. Let's get into some bold predictions. But first, when you wake up on tomorrow morning, you turn on the Disc Golf Network. Before you do that, what you got to do is you got to brew yourself a nice hot cup of the Bogey Bro blend from Third Wave Coffee, who happens to be the presenting sponsor of today's bold predictions. So Third Wave Coffee is committed to ethical and sustainable sourcing for all of their coffees and have 20 single origin coffees from all over the world in stock right now, plus the new Bogey Bros blend that was actually tasted and approved by myself, Trevor, and Connor, and is perfect for all those who are looking to dip your toes into the specialty coffee scene. For our listeners, they're offering 20% off your order with the code DISCGOLF, one word, DISCGOLF. So head over there to third-wave.coffee and pick yourself up some today. And also, if you're in the Forest area, it's about 30 seconds up the road from our shop.
Yeah.
It's my brother's coffee shop. I've been drinking the Bogey Bros blend every single morning. I have pounds of it in my cupboard. It's the only way to start the day. So head over there, pick some up. But Trevor, what's your bold prediction for the Music City Open this weekend?
My bold prediction kind of goes along with what I was saying before. I don't know how bold it is at this point, but I think it's still bold. Mine is that I think Paige Pierce is going to finish outside the top 10. I guess it's really only bold because she's coming off of a win. I think that's what makes it a little bit bold. I think people, recency bias, might be thinking otherwise, but I just don't really like this course for her game. And like I was saying earlier, I just feel like in recent years, Paige hasn't been able to like keep up momentum. I might be wrong, but my gut tells me that like in years past, I've been like, okay, Paige coming off of a win, momentum, and then it just backfires on me. So I think Paige's going to finish outside the top 10.
That is rather bold. Mine, I think, is a lot less bold, but it's a similar line of thought because I actually think, like, again, we talked about Ricky earlier and just him finishing as a W. I have him. I don't think he comes inside the top 10.
Yeah.
Not that bold of a prediction, to be fully honest with you. It was kind of tough to come up with a bold prediction for this one. I don't know if my creative juices have just been juiced out of me at this point.
It's tough when we've had a little break. And also when we have an event that's being upgraded from a Silver Series, so we weren't paying as much attention to it last year.
Yeah.
It's more in the spotlight, bigger field. You know, it's tough to gauge things.
Yeah, but I don't think Ricky comes in the top 10. I just think that I think there's too many questions with his wrist. And you listening might have never played with an injury, but typically when you're playing with an injury, your mind is so focused on how you're feeling. Right. Making sure that everything feels good and you're not farther injuring in it, that your mind isn't fully invested in the game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm expecting from Rick this weekend. But again, hopefully we just have a healthy Rick finish a tournament. Sure. Now let's get into some predictions. Current point standing, we're both tied for the season at 21 points.
Neck and neck right now. Well, none of us have made any stupid bets yet to like hand another crazy lead.
Yet.
So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good tied up.
I put Cole Redall in my top 3 at one point, I think. Didn't burn me.
Well, I'll say this. Both of us have been, like, good so far. Like, we've been getting winners pretty consistently. Like, 2 out of 3 has been pretty common. Like so far, predictions have actually been pretty good, which is great.
Rare.
It's very rare. Yeah, it is very rare.
All right, we'll just start with the MPO top 3. My MPO top 3, I went kind of boring.
Probably that third wave coffee.
Yeah, it's probably just
it.
go straight to the brain.
That's right.
I went kind of boring up top. Easy prediction, I think. Chris Dickerson takes it down.
Yeah.
I got Dickerson first. I think you can't have a top 3 without Calvin Heimberg. So I put him in second because he could easily win it, but I think he's going to be close. And my third place, I don't know why, it just feels right. It feels like this is a course that they could do something at. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they could easily be in the top 3. Matty O.
Wow.
Slid him into my top 3.
He'll get a couple top 3s a year. He's usually like a top 7 guy.
Yeah, I like him here.
I'm about to do something crazy. This whole time I was planning on putting Dickerson in my top 3, but the more we talk about it, the more I'm not feeling it.
Okay.
So I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
I'm going to pick...
You're going to regret that.
Maybe. I'm going to pick Calvin Heimberg to win.
You won't regret that, probably.
I'm going to take Gannon in second.
You probably won't regret that one either.
And I'm going to go ahead and slide Paul Macbeth in third.
Okay.
I think he's going to be due pretty much until he hasn't been bad this season, just kind of missing a little bit. And I think that's a strong top 3, that like one of those 3 is getting in the top 3 at the very least. Dickerson, surely. I think that it is a total coin toss. Like he either wins this tournament or he has another like 15th place.
I agree.
I'm
leaning towards win.
I got scared off of it. I did.
Now on FPO, I'm not willing to give up the Kristen Tatar hype train yet. Nah. So I'm putting Kristen Tatar as the winner here.
Yeah.
I'm going against your bold prediction because I think that Paige Pierce is going to do just fine out here.
Okay.
I got Paige Pierce coming in second, and I like this course with Owen Scoggins.
Interesting.
She didn't play it last year, but I don't know. I just like it. When I hear a course is technical, requires accuracy, typically what that also means is it's going to require a good putt. And one of the best putters in the world, MPO or FPO, Owen Scoggins.
Very true.
I'm going to slide her into third place.
Okay. I also have Kristen winning. I think that makes a lot of sense. I've got Missy Gannon in second. I'm gonna kind of go off of last year, and she's been good this year. And then I have Katrina Allen in third. Kind of struggled a little bit this year. Not really been throwing the way I expect her to typically, but I think she finds her game this week.
All right. Now, Dark Horse, we are having to switch it up a little bit. Previously, it was based on Disc Dynasty disc dollars. But instead, we're going to go, we used to go outside the top 50, but we like the idea that players like actually had a shot at winning.
Right, for that 10-pointer.
So we're going outside the top 30 now. So anyone 30th place or below, 30th place was Mason Ford.
Yeah.
For the record. Just so the people know. My Dark Horse pick, though, I'm riding with the one, the only, probably going to win this weekend, Sir Colbert Allen.
I mean, you just keep picking them, and we'll see what happens. It's a good pick. I was going to go with Mason Ford because that's like the obvious pick here. Like he's a champion of this event, and he's literally like right on the cut line. But I then had the realization that I haven't lost with Brody as my Dark Horse pick yet. He's been playing pretty good this year. Like he's good for a top 30. So I'm going to stick with Brody Smith till I lose.
I think he came in 47th at the Open in Austin.
I said he's good for a top 30. I didn't say that he's guaranteeing a top 30.
I will never discredit the Brody Smith pick. I don't think this is a good course for Brody.
No, this is just that's what he wants you to think. That's what everybody wants you to think.
All right, well,
perfect course.
We'll definitely find out. So be sure to tune into the Disc Golf
Network. Is it a
Network.
disc golf course that they're playing on?
It is a disc golf course they're playing on.
It's a great course for Brody Smith.
All right, there you go. You know what would be great for Brody Smith? Guts.
Or
we're talking about
or
that
some
last
Bogey
night.
Bros blend.
Or Bogey Bros blend. That would also be probably good for Brody's gut health. Some Bogey Bros blend. Anywho, be sure to tune into the Disc Golf Network and all your favorite post-production channels to catch the coverage all weekend long of Music City Open. And also, be sure to tune in to the Disc Golf, and by Disc Golf I mean us, Foundation Disc Golf's podcast network, to check out the College Disc Golf Nationals recaps that are going on each and every day. And then we'll be back on Monday for our normal episode of Grip Block to wrap it all up, put a nice bow on both College Disc Golf Nationals, the first major of the year, and Music City Open, another Pro Tour event. We'll talk to you all then on Monday.